Do you think you're free? This morning, before your feet touched the floor, your hand was already reaching for your phone. That blue light washing over your face, the dopamine hit from notifications. You felt alive, in control. But here's what you didn't notice. That tightness in your chest when you had no new messages. The way your breathing changed as you scrolled. The hollow ache growing as you consumed content after content, searching for something you couldn't name. You think you chose to pick up that phone. You think you decided to scroll for 20 minutes. You didn't. You're being played. And the most terrifying part? You love it. This isn't about willpower. This is about a system so perfectly designed that it makes you feel free while it controls every impulse, every craving, every moment of your waking life. Aldous Huxley warned us, the perfect dictatorship wouldn't need chains. It would give people exactly what they think they want. Pleasure, comfort, distraction. And they would love their servitude so much they'd never think to rebel. You feel that knot in your stomach right now? That's recognition. You are not enslaved by force. You are enslaved by pleasure. Every time you reach for stimulation when you feel uncomfortable, you're choosing the cage. Every scroll instead of sitting with your thoughts. Every binge instead of facing what's real. Your attention span is dying. Your tolerance for discomfort is gone. Your ability to be alone with yourself is suffocating. And you call this freedom? The system doesn't force you to comply. It makes compliance feel good. It makes resistance feel painful. But here's what they don't want you to know. That uncomfortable feeling you're medicating with endless stimulation, that restless ache in your chest when there's nothing to distract you, that's not your enemy. That's your power trying to wake up. That discomfort is your authentic self suffocating under layers of false freedom. That's your real voice screaming through the noise. You've been sold the biggest lie of your life. That feeling good equals being free. But your discomfort isn't a problem to be solved. It's a signal to be followed. You can feel it, can't you? That part of you that knows this is true. That's tired of being tired. Tired of that nagging sense that you're living someone else's life. That part is still alive. And it's about to show you what real freedom looks like. But first, you need to see exactly how your mind was hijacked before you even knew you had one to protect. Are you ready to see how this happened to you? Are you ready to see how this happened to you? Here's the brutal truth. What you experience as freedom is actually the most sophisticated form of control ever created. And it's invisible because it feels so good. Think about your last free evening. You finished work, finally had time for yourself. What did you do? Probably opened Netflix, scrolled social media, ordered takeout. You felt relaxed, liberated, like you were choosing exactly what you wanted. But here's what's really happening. Every single one of those choices was predicted, manufactured, and delivered to you by algorithms designed to keep you exactly where you are. That warm feeling of settling into your couch with your phone, that's not relaxation, that's submission. And your brain is releasing dopamine to reward you for it. Aldous Huxley saw this coming decades ago. In Brave New World, he didn't imagine a world where people were forced into compliance. He imagined something far more terrifying. A world where people would choose their own imprisonment because it felt like pleasure. A really efficient totalitarian state, Huxley wrote, would be one in which the all-powerful executive of political bosses and their army of managers control a population of slaves who do not have to be coerced because they love their servitude. You feel that chill running down your spine. That's because you recognize yourself in those words. This is false freedom, the illusion of choice while every option leads to the same destination. Your continued dependence on external stimulation for internal peace. You're not choosing what to watch. The algorithm is choosing what to show you, based on what will keep you watching longest. You're not deciding what to buy. You're responding to psychological triggers embedded in every advertisement, every product placement, every recommendation. Even your emotions aren't your own anymore. That anxiety you feel when your phone battery dies, that restless agitation when Wi-Fi is slow, those aren't natural human responses. Those are withdrawal symptoms from a dopamine addiction you didn't even know you had. The system has learned to speak directly to your nervous system, bypassing your conscious mind entirely. It knows exactly which colors, sounds, and sensations will make you click, buy, consume, comply. And the most insidious part? It makes you feel like you're in control while it controls you completely. But this conditioning didn't start yesterday. It started the moment you were born into a world designed to shape you into the perfect consumer. And this leads us to where it all began. You weren't born to obey. You were trained to. Picture yourself at 5 years old, curious, wild, asking endless questions. What happened to that child? Where did that natural rebellion go? It was systematically conditioned out of you. The moment you entered school, you learned the most important lesson of your life. Discomfort is bad, and avoiding it is good. Sit still for hours. Don't question authority. Follow the schedule. And when you do it right, you get a gold star, a grade, a reward. Your natural impulse to explore, to challenge, to think independently. That became disruptive behavior, something to be medicated, punished, or trained away. Carl Rogers called this the creation of the false self, a version of you designed to please others rather than express your authentic nature. But here's what Rogers didn't fully grasp. This wasn't accidental. This was intentional psychological conditioning on a massive scale. B.F. Skinner proved that any behavior can be shaped through the right combination of rewards and punishments. What he discovered in his lab with rats, the system applied to you. Every time you felt uncomfortable and reached for external validation, a teacher's approval, a parent's praise, a peer's acceptance, you were being trained. Trained to associate your internal discomfort with external solutions. You can feel it even now, can't you? That familiar ache in your chest when you think about disappointing someone. That knot in your stomach when you consider going against the crowd. Those aren't natural fears. Those are conditioned responses. The consumer culture completed what school started. Every advertisement became a lesson. You're not enough as you are, but this product will fix you. Every purchase became a temporary relief from the discomfort of being yourself. By the time you reached adulthood, the conditioning was complete. You had learned to fear your own thoughts, doubt your own instincts, and seek constant external validation for your internal state. You became the perfect consumer, someone who experiences their own mind as a problem to be solved rather than a power to be developed. And then came the digital age, with tools so sophisticated they could hijack the very neurochemistry of reward and punishment that had been used to train you since childhood. But this leads us to something even more disturbing. How modern technology weaponized your conditioned responses to create the most addictive substance ever invented. How modern technology weaponized your conditioned responses to create the most addictive substance ever invented. Distraction is the drug of the masses. And you're not just using it, you're overdosing on it every single day. Here's what's happening in your brain right now. Every notification, every like, every swipe is triggering the same neurochemical pathway as cocaine. Your dopamine system, designed to reward survival behaviors like finding food or shelter, has been hijacked by algorithms that know exactly how to keep you coming back for more. Andrew Huberman's research reveals the terrifying truth. Your brain can't distinguish between a text message and a life-saving discovery. Both trigger the same dopamine release. Both create the same craving for more. But here's where it gets sinister. The tech companies know this. They've hired neuroscientists, behavioral psychologists, and addiction specialists not to help you, but to trap you more effectively. That red notification badge? That's not information. That's a dopamine trigger designed to create anxiety until you click. The infinite scroll? That's a variable reward schedule, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. The autoplay feature? That's removing your ability to choose when to stop. You think you're using technology. Technology is using you. Lisa Feldman Barrett's research shows that emotions aren't just feelings. They're predictions your brain makes about what you need to survive. Your phone has taught your brain to predict that without constant stimulation, you're in danger. That's why your heart rate increases when your battery dies. That's why you feel phantom vibrations from a phone that isn't even there. That's why you can't sit in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for something to fill the void. Your attention, the most precious resource you have, and has become a commodity sold to the highest bidder. And you're not even getting paid for it. The attention economy has turned your consciousness into a product. Every moment you spend scrolling is a moment of your life being monetized by someone else. Every distraction is a piece of your potential being sold to advertisers who want to shape your desires, your beliefs, your very identity. Do you still own your mind? Or does your mind now belong to whoever can capture it most effectively? This constant stimulation isn't just stealing your time, it's rewiring your brain, weakening your capacity for deep thought, genuine connection, and authentic experience. And this leads us to the most devastating consequence of all. What softens you, controls you. You've become emotionally fragile, and you don't even realize it. Every time you reach for your phone when you feel bored, every time you binge watch to avoid difficult emotions, every time you scroll to escape uncomfortable thoughts, you're not just avoiding discomfort, you're training yourself to be weak. Your tolerance for emotional pain has atrophied like a muscle you never use. Think about the last time you sat in complete silence for 30 minutes. No phone, no music, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. How long did you last before that restless energy started crawling under your skin? Before that familiar anxiety began building in your chest? That discomfort you felt? That wasn't boredom. That was your authentic self trying to surface, and your conditioned mind panicking because it doesn't know how to handle reality without a buffer. Susan David's research on emotional agility reveals a disturbing truth. The more we avoid difficult emotions, the more power they have over us. But the system has taught you the opposite. It's convinced you that comfort is a right, that ease is the goal, that any form of suffering should be immediately medicated with instant gratification. You've been sold a lie, that a good life is a comfortable life. But here's what Gabor Mate discovered in his work with addiction. People don't get addicted to substances or behaviors because they're pleasurable. They get addicted because they provide relief from pain they don't know how to process. Your phone addiction, your Netflix binges, your endless consumption, these aren't pleasures. These are pain medications for a wound you're not allowed to acknowledge exists. Every time you choose comfort over growth, ease over challenge, distraction over presence, you're making yourself smaller, weaker, more dependent on external sources for internal peace. The system loves your weakness. It profits from your inability to sit with discomfort. It needs you to believe that every uncomfortable feeling is a problem to be solved, rather than information to be processed. But what if I told you that your discomfort isn't your enemy? What if the very sensations you're running from contain the key to your freedom? What if everything you've been taught about pain and pleasure, comfort and growth is backwards? This brings us to a truth that will change everything you think you know about strength. Discomfort doesn't destroy you. It builds you. Every moment of pain you've been taught to avoid, every uncomfortable emotion you've been conditioned to medicate, every difficult experience you've been told to escape, these aren't obstacles to your growth. They're the raw materials of your transformation. You can feel this truth in your body right now. Think about the strongest version of yourself you've ever been. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. When was that? I guarantee it wasn't during your most comfortable moments. It was after you survived something that nearly broke you, after you faced something that terrified you, after you endured something that forced you to discover strength you didn't know you had. That burning sensation in your chest when you're facing a difficult truth? That's not damage. That's growth. That restless energy when you're between who you were and who you're becoming. That's not anxiety. That's expansion. Viktor Frankl discovered this in the concentration camps of Nazi Germany. In the most horrific circumstances imaginable, he found that suffering without meaning destroys the human spirit. But suffering with meaning, suffering that serves a purpose, that builds character, that creates resilience, that transforms you into something unbreakable. What is to give light must endure burning, Frankl wrote. The very discomfort you've been running from is the fire that forges your authentic self. Judith Herman's research on trauma and recovery reveals something profound. It's not the absence of pain that creates psychological strength. It's the successful navigation through pain. It's learning that you can feel everything and still survive, still choose, still grow. Your emotional resilience isn't built in comfort zones. It's built in the spaces between comfort and chaos, where you learn to breathe through difficulty instead of running from it. Every time you sit with anxiety instead of scrolling it away, you're building discomfort tolerance. Every time you feel sadness without immediately seeking distraction, you're developing emotional strength. Every time you face a difficult conversation instead of avoiding it, you're training your nervous system to handle reality. This is how you reclaim your power, not by avoiding the fire, but by learning to walk through it without being consumed. And this leads us to the most revolutionary discovery of all. When you stop running from discomfort, you discover something that makes you completely immune to manipulation. When you find purpose, you stop being useful to the system. Here's why they're terrified of you discovering meaning. A person with genuine purpose can't be bought, distracted, or controlled. They become internally directed instead of externally dependent. And that makes them dangerous to a system built on your compliance. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most alive. Not happy, alive. When time seemed to disappear because you were so absorbed in something meaningful. When external validation became irrelevant because you were connected to something deeper than approval. That feeling? That's your authentic power. And it's the one thing the attention economy can't manufacture or monetize. Viktor Frankl understood this. Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. When you're driven by genuine meaning, temporary discomfort becomes irrelevant. Instant gratification loses its appeal. The dopamine hits that once controlled you become as meaningless as sugar to someone who's tasted real nourishment. But here's what Frankl didn't fully grasp. The system actively works to prevent you from finding that why. It keeps you so busy consuming, so addicted to stimulation, so focused on external metrics of success, that you never have the silence necessary to hear your own voice. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this coming. He who would learn to fly one day must first learn to stand and walk and run and climb and dance. One cannot fly into flying. Real freedom, the kind that comes from purpose, requires you to endure the discomfort of building something meaningful instead of consuming something pleasurable. When you're connected to genuine purpose, the system's rewards become insulting. The likes, the shares, the external validation, they feel hollow compared to the deep satisfaction of aligned action. The products they're selling become irrelevant because you're no longer trying to fill an internal void with external things. This is why purposeful people are rejected by the system. They can't be manipulated through pleasure or controlled through fear. They've found something more compelling than comfort, meaning. You can feel this possibility stirring in you right now, can't you? That part of you that's tired of being a consumer and wants to become a creator. That part that's done with being entertained and wants to be engaged with something real. But finding purpose requires something the system has trained you to avoid. The willingness to sit in discomfort long enough to hear what your authentic self is trying to tell you. And this brings us to the practical tools that will set you free. The mind reclaims itself in silence. Everything you've learned so far means nothing without action. Here are the 4 strategies that will break your conditioning and restore your mental freedom. Strategy 1. Strategic deprivation. Start with dopamine fasting. Not the trendy version, the real version. Choose one day a week where you eliminate all artificial stimulation. No phone, no internet, no music, no entertainment. Just you and reality. That crawling sensation under your skin, that restless agitation, that's your nervous system detoxing from artificial rewards. Sit with it, breathe through it. This is how you rebuild your tolerance for your own mind. Strategy 2. Discomfort tolerance training. Every day, choose one uncomfortable thing and do it anyway. Have that difficult conversation. Sit in silence for 20 minutes. Exercise when you don't feel like it. The goal isn't the action itself. It's training your nervous system that discomfort won't kill you. Peter Levine's research shows that when you learn to stay present with uncomfortable sensations instead of fleeing them, you literally rewire your stress response. Strategy 3. Critical questioning. Daniel Kahneman proved that most of our decisions are made by automatic, unconscious processes. Start interrupting these patterns. Before you reach for your phone, ask, what am I avoiding right now? Before you make any purchase, ask, what emotion am I trying to buy? Before you consume any content, ask, how will this serve my authentic growth? This isn't about judgment. It's about consciousness. Strategy 4. Replacing pleasure with purpose. Carl Jung understood that you can't just remove something from your life. You have to replace it with something more compelling. For every hour you used to spend consuming, spend 30 minutes creating. Write, build, learn a skill, help someone. The goal is to shift from being a passive consumer to an active creator. This is how you discover what genuinely fulfills you versus what merely distracts you. These aren't comfortable strategies. They're not supposed to be. Comfort is what got you trapped in the first place. But here's what happens when you consistently apply these tools. You start to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You begin to hear your authentic voice underneath the noise of conditioning. And that's when something unexpected happens, something the system never prepared you for. You will be seen and feared. The moment you stop seeking external validation, something shifts in how others perceive you. There's a stillness in your presence that makes people uncomfortable. A clarity in your eyes that reflects back their own confusion. A groundedness that highlights their restlessness. You're no longer performing. You're no longer trying to prove anything. And that terrifies people who are still trapped in the performance. This is the price of awakening. You become a mirror for everyone around you. Your peace reflects their anxiety. Your authenticity exposes their masks. Your freedom highlights their chains. Søren Kierkegaard called this the anxiety of freedom. Not your anxiety, but theirs. When you stop participating in collective delusions, you force others to confront the possibility that they're living a lie. And most people would rather attack the mirror than face what it shows them. Your family might say you've changed, and they're right. You have. You've stopped being who they needed you to be, and started being who you actually are. Some will celebrate this. Others will try to pull you back into familiar dysfunction because your growth threatens their comfort with staying the same. Friends might drift away, not because you've become difficult, but because you've become real. And real relationships require both people to show up authentically, which many aren't ready to do. But here's what Simone de Beauvoir understood. One is not born, but rather becomes authentic. This becoming is not a destination. It's a daily choice to honor your truth even when it costs you approval. You'll notice something profound happening in your body. That chronic tension you carried for years. The knot between your shoulder blades, the tightness in your jaw, the shallow breathing. It starts to release. Your nervous system finally feels safe because you're no longer betraying yourself to please others. You sleep deeper. You think clearer. You feel more alive in your own skin because you're finally living from the inside out instead of the outside in. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about integrating all the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide or fix or medicate away. You'll make mistakes. You'll have moments of doubt. You'll sometimes miss the simplicity of unconscious living. But you'll never go back to sleepwalking through your own life. Because once you taste real freedom, the kind that comes from within, everything else feels like a cheap substitute. This is your invitation to step into that freedom. Right now, in this moment, you're standing at a crossroads. Behind you lies everything familiar. The comfort of distraction, the safety of conformity, the ease of letting others think for you. Ahead lies something unknown but real, the discomfort of growth, the challenge of authenticity, the responsibility of living your own life. You can feel it in your chest, can't you? That stirring, that recognition, that part of you that's been waiting for permission to wake up. This isn't about perfection. This isn't about becoming someone else. This is about remembering who you were before the world convinced you to be someone else. You were conditioned to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But freedom lives in the space between, where you choose growth over comfort, truth over approval, presence over distraction. The system will keep offering you easier paths, more entertainment, better distractions, smoother ways to numb the ache of living unconsciously. But you know now what those offers really are. Invitations back to sleep. Every time you choose silence over stimulation, you reclaim a piece of your mind. Every time you sit with discomfort instead of medicating it, you build authentic strength. Every time you speak your truth despite the cost, you become more real. The people who love the real you will stay. The ones who only loved your performance will leave. And that's not a loss. That's liberation. You don't need anyone's permission to be free. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You don't need to wait until you're ready, because you'll never feel ready to leave the cage you've grown comfortable in. You just need to choose. Right now, in this moment. The choice is yours. It's always been yours. The system just convinced you it wasn't. What will you choose? Have you ever felt trapped in this pleasure loop? Share your truth in the comments. Let others know they're not alone in this struggle. If this opened your eyes to something you needed to see, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Now that you see the system clearly, are you ready to learn how to fight it? Because seeing the cage is just the beginning. Next, we're going deeper, into the practical tools that will train your mind for silence in a world that fears it. The real work starts now.